2023. Today is a day that's critical. In fact, today could be a day that could change your life forever, because what we're going to talk about is how to increase your energy. Everything we've talked about in this tape program presupposes that you have the energy to follow through. The challenge is that for most people in life, what occurs is they've got all these great goals, all these great possibilities, all things they want to achieve, and yet most people barely have enough energy to get through the day. You know, they work hard all day long, 9 to 5, fight the traffic home, watch a little TV, and get a bite to eat and get to bed. And they don't have time to stay up and work on their goals, recondition themselves, make things work. I mean, the bottom line in life is to be able to do those things you need energy. Anything in life that has any value will require an investment on your part of energy. Most people in life fail not because they don't have the ability or the intelligence or the skill, but because most people run out of emotional gas while they're climbing the mountain of success. You don't want that to be you. So how do we go about making a change here? Well, I'd like to talk to you very briefly in this tape on at least just a couple of aspects of what I call my Living Health program. For almost 6 years now, I've been teaching people how to take control of their physical body. And the reason I did that is about 6 years ago, I was completely out of control of my physical body, as you know. 38 pounds overweight, but worse. Not only was I overweight, but I had virtually no energy whatsoever. I was the kind of guy that slept 8 hours and would still wake up tired. You know, the alarm clock would go off and I'd push that little button that's supposed to give you another 10 minutes, 2 or 3 times, as if it was really going to matter. But the bottom line was, I was intelligent, I really had desire to make my life work, but I just felt so lousy all the time, so tired, so weak, I wasn't tapping into that potential. So I want to share with you what turned me around, what absolutely shifted me. And I'll tell you, it wasn't just by reading a bunch of books. Because one of the things that came up when I wanted to change my life was I started to go out and read books on how to change myself physically. And I found so many massive contradictions, I couldn't believe it. And they were from equally qualified people. You know, this guy's an MD and this guy's an MD, and they both argue. One guy says, make sure you eat all kinds of protein. The other person says, don't eat excess protein. All it's going to do is make you tired and slow you down, puts excess nitrogen in your body. Here's what you should do. And I went nuts because I couldn't figure out what to do until finally one day I decided I've had it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read, I'm going to listen, I'm going to talk to people, but I'm going to judge by results. That I'm going to use common sense to dictate what really works for me in my own physical body. And what I decided to do is go find people who are like me, people who've been overweight and have become thin, but had stayed thin for at least a couple of years. Not somebody who just gone on a diet and lost weight. I mean, I could find lots of people like that, but they usually are heavier. In fact, statistics show, as I mentioned to you earlier, that when people go on diets, they really don't work. In fact, if you remember, that after 2 years, most people weigh at least 2 pounds more than they did before they went on the diet in the first place. In fact, what's the problem with dieting? Remember those first 3 letters in the word diet. Die. That's a clue. Your brain probably says, that might be painful. Since your brain's trying to avoid pain at almost any cost, it's probably going to avoid dieting too. So how do we take control? Well, the first thing we got to do is get a plan. Like anything else in life, you can't just hope. You've got to have a plan that works and that produces results. So I really looked around to find some people, as I said, who are great role models. People who had produced the result that I really want. I didn't want credentials, I wanted results. I found those people and I modeled them. Out of all these people that I interviewed, I developed a 60-day system for myself to get myself in optimum health and then to keep myself there. And again, I called it my Living Health system. I applied it to myself, and in less than 60 days, I changed my health in more ways than I thought were physically possible. First of all, I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. I'd been 38 pounds overweight. Second of all, though, my energy exploded. The kind of energy that hopefully comes through in my voice when I communicate with you, that's who I am today. That's not even close to who I was 6 years ago. The difference between who I was and who I am is like night and day. Before, I could barely make it through the day. Now, I know how to mobilize all of my abilities and resources as a human being because I start with that physical vibrancy that allows me to create the success I'm committed to. So how can you get started? Well, I'm not going to go through my whole Living Health system here, but I want to give you at least 2 simple principles you can apply immediately to increase the quality of your life and specifically your physical life and your energy level. The first key element is this. You must understand the power of breath. Listen, the foundation of health comes down to one thing. Your entire body is only as healthy as the cells that make it up. But what determines how healthy your cells are has to do with one primary source of your body, and that is your bloodstream. That is the environment that every cell in your body must grow in and live in. If that's maintained, then you're going to have health. And if that's polluted, then the cells in your body are going to be weak, which means your energy is going to be weak, and you will die. So how do we maintain and control the circulatory system so that the environment remains clean and nurturing and not polluted? The answer is your breath is the control button to the mechanism that cleanses your circulatory system. Not only is breath the foundation of all life in that it gives oxygen to the cells, the things they must have to live, but it also controls the flow of lymph fluid in your body. Lymph fluid contains white blood cells that protect your entire body and cleanse the system. What is the lymph system? Well, some people think of it as the body's sewage system. Literally, every cell in your body is surrounded by lymph. In fact, you have 4 times more lymph fluid in your body as you do blood. Now, here's how the lymph system works. Blood is pumped from your heart through your arteries to thin, porous capillaries. The blood carries the oxygen and nutrients to the capillaries, where they are then diffused into this fluid around the cells called lymph. Every cell in your body is surrounded with lymph. Bear that in mind. The cells have an intelligence or an affinity for what they need, so they take the oxygen and the nutrients necessary for their health right out of the lymph, and then they excrete toxins. Like all living things do, your cells excrete toxins, some of which goes back into the capillaries. But dead cells and blood proteins and other toxic materials must be removed by the lymph system, and the lymph system is activated by deep breathing. See, the body cells depend on the lymph system as the only way to drain off the large toxic materials and the excess fluid in your body, which restrict the amount of oxygen your cells can get, which they've got to have for you to be healthy. So the fluid passes through the lymph nodes, where dead cells and other poisons, except blood proteins, are neutralized and destroyed. Now, how important is the lymph system? Well, if it were totally to shut down for only 24 hours, you'd be dead as a result of trapped blood proteins and excess fluid throughout your cells. Now, the bloodstream is lucky. It's got a pump, and we call it our heart. But the lymph system doesn't have a pump, and that's something few people realize. The only way lymph can move around is through deep breathing and muscular movement. So if you want to have a healthy bloodstream with an effective lymph and immune system, you need to breathe deeply and produce movements that will stimulate that lymph. See, when I began to look around to find out how to become more healthy, everybody has information for me on how to eat better. But in reality, you better look real carefully at any quote-unquote health program that doesn't first and foremost tell you how to cleanse your body through effective breathing. Let me give you an example. Dr. Jack Shields, who's a highly regarded lymphologist from Santa Barbara, California, recently conducted an interesting study on the immune system. He put cameras inside people's bodies to see what stimulated the cleansing of the lymph system. He found that a deep diaphragmatic breath is the most effective way to accomplish this. It creates something like a vacuum that literally sucks the lymph through the bloodstream and multiplies the pace at which the body eliminates toxins. In fact, deep breathing and exercise can accelerate this cleansing process by as much as 15 times the normal pace. How's that for cleansing a system? If you get nothing else out of everything I've talked about, but an understanding of the importance of deep breathing, you could dramatically increase the level of your body's health immediately. It's the reason why health systems like yoga focus so much attention on healthy breathing. There's nothing like it to cleanse your body. Now look, it doesn't take too much common sense to realize that out of all the elements necessary for good health, oxygen is the most critical. Yet it's important for you to know how important it really is. And I found some studies over the last 5 or 6 years that really grabbed me and really made me focus on my breathing, pay attention to it, and nurture it. One of the studies was by Dr. Otto Warburg, Nobel Prize winner and the director of the Max Planck Institute for Cell Physiology. He studied the effect of oxygen on cells continuously, and he was able to turn normal, healthy cells into malignant cells simply by lowering the amount of oxygen available to them. His work was followed up here in the United States by Dr. Harry Goldblatt. In fact, as far back as 1953, in the Journal of Experimental Medicine, Goldblatt described the experiments he conducted with a species of rat that had never been known to have malignant growths. He took cells out of these newborn rats, I mean, picture this, and he divided them into 3 groups. One of the 3 groups of cells was put into a bell jar and deprived of oxygen for up to 30 minutes at a time. Like Dr. Warburg, Goldblatt discovered that after a few weeks, many of these cells died, and the movement of others slowed, and still others began to change their structure and take on the appearance of malignant cells. The other 2 groups of cells were maintained in bell jars where the oxygen content was consistently maintained at the normal atmospheric conditions. Well, after 30 days, Dr. Goldblatt injected all 3 groups of these cells into 3 separate groups of rats. The results? After 2 weeks, when the cells have been reabsorbed into these